I'm on the road to recovery in Castle Rock, Colorado. Live from Millville, New Jersey, I'm on the road to recovery. We're on the road to recovery in Morgantown, West Virginia at Mountaineer Field. And live in Scranton, Pennsylvania, I'm on the road to recovery. Here I am on the road to recovery from Berlin, Maryland. Hey, from Caseville, Michigan, I'm on the road to recovery. I'm on the road to recovery at Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. Years ago, on one of our recovery tours across the country, I was so proud to represent Steered Straight and Recovery Army as we came to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And we had the privilege and honor to come to New Vision Church in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where they were doing some prison ministry, but bringing inmates from the county jail over to the church to hear some Christian music and hear a powerful story of redemption from yours truly. And one of the people that I was able to impact on that trip was Rhonda Rush. And I've been friends with her ever since. An incredible story of how that day was one of the catalysts in her life and how she's now taking what she has found in recovery and sharing it with other people. An incredible, powerful story of redemption and recovery. Rhonda Rush.
My name is Rhonda Rush, and I'm from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And my experience with drugs and alcohol started as a teenager. Experimented with marijuana and the likes of all that. It was the culture of the day. I was a preacher's kid, and so my dad, he preached fire and brimstone from the pulpit. It was a very rigid and dogmatic denomination. That rigidness and that dogma coupled with our dysfunctional life at home, while he preached fire and brimstone from the pulpit, at home, we were abused, beaten, shamed, ridiculed. The punishment of the day was to stand in the mirror and say what a horrible person you were. So I believe that it started way back then in my inner struggle to know who God was. That went on for a long time, just living in that rebellion and living the wild life. And all the time I was able to keep a job and live a fairly, what looked like a normal life on the outside, but it never really was. And I got married when I was 27, and he was a wonderful man, and my life really started to settle down then. And I was always on pain pills. My doctor prescribed them to me early on for migraines, and that started a path of seeking them out however I could. So I had many aches and pains and ailments, and I was just always able to get them. That went on for a long time, and I just didn't recognize it as addiction. I just wasn't aware. I just knew it was dysfunctional. And so my husband died right just a few weeks before our 20th wedding anniversary. We were supposed to go to Hawaii to celebrate, and he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and within 3 weeks he was dead. I used opiates then to just relieve the gut-wrenching pain of grief that I didn't know how to deal with any other way. So I remember sitting in my living room with the curtains drawn and it dark, and then I just lived that way in a recliner chair for over a year, just dying on the inside. I didn't even want to live, but I didn't want to die. It was just so dark and ugly. And my daughter came to me one day and she said, "Mom, your grandkids can't bear to see you like this anymore." And so I started trying to dig my way out of that pit, and I started getting out, but I was still on the pills. And at 50 years old, I got my first DUI. And so that really didn't deter me any. It was just a slap on the hand, and I just kept living in the dysfunction. There was a period of time where I was taking 60 pills a day. And if I didn't have them, I was obsessed with getting them. If I did have them, I was counting them. And it was just a hamster wheel of obsession to have or to get those pills to feed my addiction. And so the DUIs just kept happening. I got one, then I got another one, and I'd no sooner get really close to finishing probation and getting all that behind me, and I'd get another one. And finally, at 55 years old, I got my final and last DUI, and I went to jail, and there was just no way to get out. I was in jail, and I was stuck there, and I had to face myself. However, I didn't in the beginning. I sat in that jail cell for so long, just in self-pity, self-loathing. I kept saying, God, why'd you let this happen to me? I'm a good Christian. How could you let this happen to me? And that went on for a long, long time. And it wasn't until about a year into it that I met a wonderful lady, Mary Dale Williams, and she runs Doors of Hope, which is a program here in Murfreesboro for women coming out of incarceration or homelessness or whatever that may be. I met her, and they had just started a pilot program at the work center, and it was called Therapeutic Community, and I was chosen to go into that program, and that was the beginning of the change for me. It was in that program I started learning about addiction, how the brain works when you are addicted. The work center provided opportunities for me to go to church, to get in Bible study, and it was every single day of every time the doors were open for me to have an opportunity to get closer to God or to learn more or to come out of the life I was living, I wanted to be involved in it. So I was in church, I was in Bible studies, and I was in classes through this therapeutic community, and slowly, like an onion, peeling the layers away. It didn't happen instantaneously. It was a slow process, but by the time God knew exactly how long I needed to stay in that jail until I was ready to leave. And I don't feel like I got out of there any day sooner than I should have, because when I walked out of there, I was determined to not look back. And since that day, since that process, my life has never been the same. And I get really emotional thinking about it and talking about it, because I'm not any different than anybody else, but for some reason or another, God has allowed me to spread His message that there is hope and you can do it, because I was a lifelong opiate user, 30 plus years an opiate user. And if God can take me and turn my life around and pick me up out of that pit, then He can for anybody. I was invited to speak before all the newly elected sheriffs in the state of Tennessee, and afterwards I got a standing ovation. I was sitting there crying, and all of these, big burly men and women in law enforcement, and they're telling me their own stories of them themselves. One sheriff in particular said, I'm 7 years clean from painkillers. So, it's nobody is exempt. I'm in my second year as a peer recovery specialist, and also I'm the recovery director for my church, Family Worship Center. So God took me from the pit to the palace, and I'm just overwhelmed by everything that He keeps doing in my life. And the funny thing about doing this video is I met Michael while I was in jail. I met Michael while I was at the Rutherford County Work Center, and I got to go to New Vision Church through one of the events that the Work Center allowed us to participate in. And I saw Michael there at an event where he shared his testimony, and I never forgot it. And here I am 3 years later almost, and I run into him, and I recognized him right off the bat. And so here I am doing a video with him. So God, He'll bring you full circle. He'll bring you full circle around, and He's done that a lot for me. So Next week, I will be 5 years free, clean, serene, set free, sober, whatever term you want to use. All I can tell you is who the sun sets free is free indeed.
Hey, Rhonda, thanks so much for sharing your story with us, your hope of recovery. Thank you so much for what you're doing, sharing that hope and recovery with other people. I'm so grateful for your friendship and knowing you and what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. From Murfreesboro, Tennessee, I'm Michael DeLeon. We're on the road to recovery.
On the road to recovery.